What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. More Birthright for you today. We're taking a look at the infamous realm of Grabentod, and it is a lawful evil one. It is actually recommended for players, so players can play in this one. And as it says here, it's disorganized and divided. The holdings shift in size and prominence with the season. So, yeah, it's basically like a pirate, anarchic type kingdom. So, but there's a lot going on here. And we saw some of that with the Hag's Domain as well, and also with Mudan. They kind of all intersect a little bit in different areas. So a fair few provinces, a lot of them kind of underpopulated, but you do have a 7 in there, and a couple of 4s and 5s, and then some smaller ones too. Laws, you can see, is all over the place, multiple temples going on, multiple guilds, and then all kinds of, somewhat different sources as well. So let's jump in. In years past, the King of Grabentod ruled its provinces completely. Now, with King Albrecht held hostage in Mudan, the rulership of the provinces is fragmented among the king's men, ruled by Albrecht's steward and 2 other nobles. Note, law holdings marked KM, king's men, are actually controlled by Harlmut. He pays vassalage to Albrecht. While the king and the king's men care little for religion, others in the realm look to a few gods, particularly Ela, Naira, and Kristal. So we got some Voss action going on there. On the guild side, the king's men control the major guilds in Grabentod, but the worshippers of Ela have a few holdings as well, and there's kind of a little bit of back and forth between there, sort of a public face for Ela, but then also sort of the behind-the-scenes guild activity. Sources, Albrecht has not been able to entice a wizard regent to reside in his northern realm, so the only source holders are the Hag and the Dragon, both of which, again, are some nasty adversaries, although the Dragon is a little bit less so just because no one's really encountered the Dragon so much. We saw that when we looked at Drakenward, but the Hag is definitely a thorn in everyone's side with that one source she has. Regency is a little bit complicated here. So generated accumulated, you get 23 and 42 respectively. King Albrecht accumulates 18 RP for his holdings and provinces, plus an extra 4 from the king's men and 1 in vassalage from Parnil Bowspear for a total of 23 RP. Now, again, we'll mention here there is the Birthright novel, The Hag's Contract. We did a review on that over on our Patreon. By far, I think probably the weakest of all the Birthright novels, but it does at least feature Grabentod, The Hag's Domain as well, and does give you at least a little bit more insight in some of these characters as well. So worth a read as a one time through, but certainly not really something that you're going to want to reread. Overall, not that great. Treasury is fairly substantial at 54 gold bars. That, again, dwarfs pretty much like any of the Annuirian realms, as we've seen with so many of the Brecht realms, just massive treasuries that really do allow for someone to spend pretty easily to start trying to rule the realm. So the army, Albrecht commands through Harlmut and the king's men. The following troops, not massive, but certainly no slouch here either. You got 3 units of infantry and then 5 units of Grabentod raiders, which count as marines. And then interestingly here, 3 units of artillerists, 0 cavalry. And then the navy's pretty decent. Of course, not going to stand up to Mudan, but it's also, again, not insignificant. You got 3 round ships, 3 keel boats, and a cog. Parnil Bowspear has 3 units of Grabentod raiders, marines, 1 of artillerists, and 2 round ships, while Lady Delma's supporters command 4 units of levies, 1 of Grabentod raiders, and 1 round ship. So, then the Sailor's Home Temple has charge of 2 units of levies and 1 keel boat, so you have a little bit of extra forces there as well. The Winter Witches have 2 units of levies as well, so to surround everything out. So plenty of backup there, although it is at the lower quality level of levies. Regent, King Albrecht Graben, which we'll see later, basically level 5 fighter, level 6 thief, decent little bloodline, neutral evil, is the recognized ruler of Grabentod, but since his imprisonment in Mudan, his steward, Harlmut, who's a level 2 fighter, level 7 thief, ironically a better thief or higher thief by a little bit, very minuscule bloodline, also lawful evil, commands in his stead. Some say Harlmut actually turned Albrecht over to the Mudan Royal Marines, but this is unlikely. Harlmut has had nothing but trouble keeping the kingdom together for his master, and you do get a somewhat sympathetic picture of him in that novel as well. I shouldn't say necessarily sympathetic, but you kind of understand the tough position that he's in with all these other forces within the realm really essentially without the king, they essentially would be at each other's throats and kind of are and have all their own schemes and stuff as well. Two other law regents struggle for controlling Grabentod. The first, Lady Delma Naurin, level 2 fighter, lawful neutral, again, pretty small bloodline, but comes from a cadet branch of the Graben royal family. She's actually a puppet manipulated by a group of powerful commoners and pirate captains. She would be content to relax in northern splendor rather than fight these political games. The other would-be ruler has no such desires. Originally a common sailor, Parneal Bowspear, level 9 fighter, so pretty high up there. Azrai and also Chaotic Eel slew a minor Anshe that attacked his ship north of the Drachenauer Mountains. He gained its bloodline, then used his new powers to remove obstacles between himself and rulership. He pledges loyalty to Albrecht and the King's men, even submitting a few RPs in vassalage, but he's an opponent of the Steward Harmlet, and we do get that picture in the novel again, although he, spoilers, but does kind of get a little bit of comeuppance in the novel too. And then moving on to other important NPCs, the Nightwalkers, who make up the Temple of Ayla, as well as the Thieves Guild, again kind of double duty there, are led by a woman known only as Haltengaben, roughly translated as stand and deliver. She's the high priestess of the Nightwalkers and was, up until his capture, an ally of the king. Now she seems to sway back and forth between the King's men and Parneal Bowspear. And again, that's basically just playing both sides, so we do get that sense in the novel as well, although there's some other nefarious things that go on with her. In addition to the Night Walkers, two small temples fight for control over the hearts and minds of the commoners of Grabentod. The Neira, the more popular, the Sailor's Home, is devoted to Neira and watched over by the High Priestess Cyrene Wassercrest, so Watercrest. Level 7 priestess, neutral good, and fairly substantial bloodline at 36. All sailors, pirates, and traders in the realm pay at least some token homage to her. And then on contrast, the Winter Witches, who follow Kristal, again, Voss influence there, encroach on Grabentod from the east. They're led by High Witch, fun title there, High Witch Chespala Fröschen, level 3 wizard actually, and level 6 priest, chaotic evil, and a minor bloodline. And then the dragon, statistics unknown, may be an Anshe, Urshe, or just an actual literal dragon, one of the rare ones in Cerealia, for all anyone knows, but the third choice seems most likely. Although dragons are not known to have bloodlines, scholars believe they could tap the Mayvale of Cerealia and use it as well, if not better than humans or elves. If the dragon is indeed a dragon, it may be Kapin Kriaukuran, a dragon known to inhabit the Drachenauers near the borders between Drachenward and Grabentod. So actually given a name here. And then finally the Hag, which we again will get to in much more detail in Blood Enemies once we start that series, but also whose realm we did look at, has chosen to influence the area again. She gained control of one source holding in recent months and has ley lines leading into many provinces in Grabentod. Fortunately, the dragon seems to be at odds with her, so she's not used realm magic to trouble Grabentod, keyword, yet. It'd be interesting to see what would come of that, and depending on how a campaign shakes out, certainly a player could try to maybe cultivate some sort of alliance with the dragon, depending on what it is. So there's so many possibilities there, but the Hag is certainly a thorn in literally everyone's side in this part of the Brecht realms. So Grabentod is a mountainous, cold domain with a bizarre history. Centuries ago, it was one of the noble realms of Brechtur. Like its southern cousins, it did chafe under Annuiran rule, but unlike the other realms, it threw off this rulership with little bloodshed. Winters closed the ports of Old Grabentod as frequently as they do today. The Annuirans trapped in the northern reaches during the final uprising either died fighting or surrendered easily, more the latter than the former. Thus, Grabentod basically became independent fairly simply. But Old Grabentod did not enjoy its independence for too long. Intrigue and conspiracy seems to breed in the mountains of the north, and the royal family produced a woman who eventually became one of the most fearsome of the northern Anshe-land, and that's the Hag. The Hag proved to be the ruin of Old Grabentod. Within a few generations of her evils, the realm was sundered. No heir to the throne could be found. Some of them went into hiding in fear of their lives, and the kingdom devolved into anarchy. Drachenward and Grabentod have blamed each other for this problem, or for these problems, ever since. But clearly it is the Hag. Some 85 years ago, however, a pirate sailed into Grabentod's harbors. He declared he was the true heir to the Grabentod throne, giving his name as Ulrich Graben. His outlaw fleet had been driven from the Zweilands, but he claimed that he now pursued his heritage. He faced serious resistance. Several small settlements existed in Grabentod, and few relished the idea of a pirate king, but Ulrich was armed with a small fleet of ships and a large group of desperate men. They burned the forests and villages in Darren's End and killed the leaders of the resistance. Now, to this day, though, the ghosts of those battles haunt the burning forest, and on clear winter nights, fires can still be seen among the treetops, which is, again, just one of the I love these little descriptions like that. It just gives you such a wonderful sense to play with as a DM and role play for the players and everything. So some of these just crazy things here in the Birthright setting. But because of these hauntings, King Ulrich founded the city of Alber in the sheltered northern harbor. This proved fortuitous since volcanic activity in the Drachenauer Mountains, some say it is the dragons shifting and roaring in their sleep, heats the Alber Inlet, keeping it free of ice all year. Alber stays comparatively warm as well. The settlers grow winter wheat on the plains outside the city. New Grabentod is a realm in flux, though. At no point in its history have its rulers been free of opposition. Some say that if a true heir to old Grabentod were to return and slay the hag, the shadow over the realm would be lifted. I think certainly over the whole region. The pirate kings would be driven out, and the iron and silver would be restored to the mines of the north. Now, however, evil and strife rule the land, and no one truly hopes for much better. And realistically, with the current standings, with all these sort of players that we've now looked at, some of the people ruling the realm, the temples and the guilds, really that is a tall order for anyone wanting to rule this realm as that part of the Birthright campaign. Certainly an amazing realm to do some adventuring in and around this whole region, really, but you certainly have your work cut out for you if you're taking on one of the existing characters. Again, this would be more like an evil, generally aligned campaign for the leaders, or if you really did want to roleplay someone who is a true heir and try to restore the realm, start off a new resistance or something, that could be some epic campaigning, certainly. Now, allies. Some say Ulrich made a pact with the hag all those years ago, and this doesn't seem too far-fetched. The hag nurses a hatred of old Grabentod and knows the prophecies involving the return of a true heir, so she may have agreed to support Ulrich and his descendants. In addition, the Gnolls of the Knollfells have a trade alliance with the King's Men. The creatures load lumber and minerals onto Grabentod's ships. In return for armor and weapons, the pirates plunder from their victims. So interesting there that you have that particular relationship. And another thing to consider as a ruler, is do you want to continue that relationship? Do you want to break that? Certainly you'd have them as enemies to deal with very quickly then. Enemies who've been, supplied with lots of weapons and armor. Most of the seafaring peoples of Cerealia are enemies of the Grabentod pirates, certainly, and Muden is basically first and foremost, especially since they captured the current quote-unquote king. Another tough part there, your allies really aren't any of the other human realms, so tough to really turn things around in a pirate realm. Then finally, the law regents of Grabentod are searching for a wizard regent ally. If the king's men can gain a powerful court wizard, they can probably wipe out the dissenters in the kingdom. Now, since Albrecht's capture by Muden, Harlmut has stopped paying him RP and vassalage, and instead uses it generated by the king's men's holdings to defend the realm. If Harlmut can contact Graben, not a difficult task, just time-consuming, he can have access to the rest of his sire's RP if he can convince the king that this isn't an attempt at a coup. So, yeah, lots of tough things to consider here. So whether you're going to try and take over as Harlmut or any of these other characters and, really find some sort of way to start building and growing in the kingdom here, really in whatever you want to try and do. Is the kingdom going to continue on its current trajectory? You're going to try and sort of right the ship and get away from being a pirate realm. How are you going to deal with all the disparate elements here of the realm and all these different people with their different interests? You got external threats potentially with the hag. None of the other Brecht realms really are your allies, so you've got everything cut out for you left and right. So again, ruling this is probably, I would say, extreme difficulty to try and rule this realm, but an amazing challenge, and depending on how you want to take it in the campaign. But I think honestly one of the most fun ones to be adventuring in and around. Lots of cool things going on, and really a lot of neat characters to interact with too, and potentially cause the realm to shift in one way or another. Do you support one of the factions here? Do you play them off of each other? Maybe this is something where you eventually then come into rulership and just ignore the prophecies in the history. Maybe it does turn out one of your characters is a long lost Grabentod descendant, things like that. Do you eventually go after the hag and just end that once and for all? Certainly, I think a lot of people would flock to you just for being able to do that. So many cool things. But let us know, guys, if you've played as Grabentod the realm in your campaigns or adventured in the realm there. Love to hear about that. And if you want to see these types of videos a little bit earlier, support us on Patreon. Every little bit helps there too, and helps us keep going with Birthright content and some other exclusives that we have over there as well. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.